In a quiet village hugged by green hills and golden fields, there stood a tiny bakery with purple shutters and a crooked chimney that puffed out sweet-smelling steam. Everyone knew it as Bumblewhiff's Bakery, run by the kindest and oddest baker in town, old Mrs. Bumblewhiff. But this isn't a story about her. It's about Lila, a clever little girl with a wild imagination, muddy boots, and a nose for secrets. Every morning, the smell of fresh buns, honey rolls, and cinnamon twists floated through the village, and Lila would stop in front of the bakery, sniff the air, and sigh. One day, as golden leaves swirled around her feet, Lila noticed something strange. The bakery had no customers. None. And yet, every chimney puff was sweeter than the last, and trays of pastries vanished from the window display in minutes. Though no one ever saw who bought them, Lila's eyes narrowed. She was no ordinary kit. She was the self-declared village mystery solver, and this smelled suspiciously like a case. That night, while everyone else tucked into their warm beds, Lila crept out with her flashlight, notebook, and a sandwich just in case she got hungry. She tiptoed past sleeping chickens, across the dewy grass, and stopped beneath the bakery window. Inside, she saw something impossible. Mrs. Bumblewhiff wasn't baking alone. Tiny creatures, no taller than a teacup, were whizzing around the kitchen. Some wore aprons made of buttons, others carried spoons larger than their heads. They sprinkled stardust instead of sugar and used lightning bugs to light the oven. Lila gasped. The creatures were baking. Magic! Suddenly, one of them spotted her. He squeaked, dropped a glowing cupcake, and zipped straight through the wall. Within seconds, Lila was surrounded. A dozen tiny bakers with glowing eyes and icing-covered shoes stared up at her. Then, poof! Mrs. Bumblewhiff appeared, holding a wand that looked suspiciously like a rolling pin. "Well then," she said, her eyes twinkling, "you've seen too much." Lila froze, but instead of zapping her into a cupcake, Mrs. Bumblewhiff grinned. "We've been waiting for someone curious enough to notice," she said. "The truth is, I'm retiring. These magical pastries don't bake themselves forever, you know." Lila blinked. "You want me to take over the bakery?" But Mrs. Bumblewhiff shook her head and chuckled. "Oh no, my dear. You're not the next baker. You're the next ingredient." Before Lila could scream, the room spun, and the walls stretched. Her arms wobbled like jelly, her hair turned to whipped cream, and, plop, she shrank to the size of a muffin. One of the tiny creatures handed her an apron. It said, "Bake." But then, she wasn't there to solve the mystery. She was the mystery now. For the next few days. Or was it weeks? Time was funny inside the bakery. Lila stirred moonberry jam, whisked dreams into meringue, and learned to speak the tiny creature's secret language. Chirpelsqueak. They weren't just bakers, they were fluffins, guardians of joy. Their magical treats kept the village cheerful and kind, and without them, the world would slowly grow grumpy and grey. But Fluffins could only train one human every 100 years, and now it was her turn. Lila missed her home, her parents, and her bed with the lumpy pillow. But slowly, she found herself laughing, learning, even dancing on spoons as they whisked across floating countertops. Until one day, the Fluffins brought her a final test. Bake a memory. That was the rule. One pastry. One real, powerful memory from her heart. Lila closed her eyes. She thought of rainy days in her mom's lap, the sound of her dad snoring, the way the village cats always followed her, and from that memory, she baked a single glowing muffin, warm and soft and shimmering with golden crumbs. The Fluffins nodded. She had passed. Mrs. Bumblewhiff returned, her rolling pin now glowing like a wand. "You're ready," she said. And just like that, everything blurred. When Lila opened her eyes, she was back home. In her bed, morning sunlight spilled across the floor, and the air smelled like cinnamon. Was it all a dream? She leapt from bed, ran to the bakery, and stopped. The bakery was gone. Where it once stood was a cozy garden with purple flowers and a small wooden sign that read, "Thank you, Lila." Her heart sank. But then she noticed something. In her pocket was a tiny muffin, still warm, still glowing, and when she took a bite, the world shimmered. The colors were brighter. The wind sang softly, and everyone she passed smiled just a little more than usual. Because now Lila carried the magic. She wasn't just a girl with muddy boots and a nose for trouble. She was the guardian of joy. And even though the bakery was gone, its magic lived on. In her, and in every laugh, every kind word, and every shared cookie that made the world a little sweeter.